Okay, good morning, guys, and good morning, everyone. For those people who is watching this video, my name is Alejandro, and today I'm going to explain the topic about Gestalt psychology and how the psychology is related with the educational field and the learning process. So let's get started with this. Okay, these are the main topics that will be covered through this presentation. First, we have what is Gestalt. I think it is necessary to define what is Gestalt. Okay, then the regions of Gestalt psychology, and then what does Gestalt mean? Then the founders of this theory and psychology, and of course the perception and memory based on Gestalt psychology, and then the language based on Gestalt because we are studying a degree in a new language, and finally the Gestalt and learning. So let's get started with the first topic, and this is what is Gestalt psychology. Okay, well, according to Rock and Palmer in the 1990s, Gestalt psychology is a movement in psychology that emerged at the beginning of the 20th century, in which it incorporates the understanding of perception, learning of thought in our language, and in our culture, right? So, basically, what the author wants to transmit us is that these schools maintains the mind responsible for configuring through various principles of those elements that become part of it. And thanks to the action of perception or the collection of the memory, for the Gestalt psychology, the whole is never equal to the sum of its various parts, but it's something different. Okay, so um, the different parts that forming this um, complement this theory in a whole. Okay, so the regions of the Gestalt psychology. Well, according to Gilberto Leonardo in 2004, the Gestalt movement was born in Germany, and during the first decades of the 20th century, actually, um, this theory was in a period of war, and it is considered one of the main movements in the psychological revolution post-perception as the initial process of activity mental. Well, accordingly, we refer to the related theories that represent or grew out of Gestalt psychology as Gestalt felt theories or configurative psychology. And this is why this um, movement was really important in those decades because, first of all, this is the first theory which um, tries to focus on the perception and how the perception works to give us an idea of the elements that are around us. Well, what does Gestalt mean? Well, according to Bigge and P. Hunt in the 1970s, Gestalt is a German name for which there is no equivalent word in our language. With this, I mean that there's no an equivalent in English and Spanish. Okay, so that the term fits typically into the psychological literature, and on the closest translation of Gestalt is configuration or noun. Okay, so Gestalt psychology has contributed more to the study of other areas of psychology. For some of its ideas continue to influence the modern psychology and education. Okay. And now let's talk about the founders. Okay. The first founder of this theory is Max Weidmer, with Wolfgang Kohler and Kurt Kafka. And well, these authors have in common that they created this school, the psychology, the Gestalt Psychology. Okay? And actually, all these psychologists were the main theorists of the Gestalt school. And these authors consider that perception as the fundamental process of mental activity and assume that other psychological activities such as learning, memory, thought, among others, depend to proper functioning of the perception and organizing this process. Okay, so that's why this for them this theory is really important. And now the perception and memory based on Gestalt psychology. Well, according to Kohler, one of the founders of this theory, in the 1959, the mind configures through certain laws the elements that reach it through sensory channels like perception or memory, like thought, intelligence, and problem solving. So that is to say that the experience is any fact of material origin that leads the subject to form a concrete idea of the nature of the surrounding world. Okay, so as I said before, the perception works with our brain to give us an idea of what we are seeing around us. And well, Gestalt define perception as a tendency to mental order. Initially, perception determines the information entry, and second, it ensures that the information taken from the environment allow us the formation of abstractions, like judgments, categories, and concepts. And this is said by Boring in the 1918. So here we have a clear idea of this author that try to express how this perception works in the real life. And actually, this part of the perception is really related with the next slide, in which we're going to talk about language based on Gestalt. Okay. And well, the psychology of the child has always pointed to the fact that the child creates his objective world with the language alone. Okay. And that is a great achievement of language or of words, consists in the creating fixed objects that can be fixed, starting from the flow of his experiences, starting from perception, objectively finding himself in front of them and on understanding with other about themselves. And this is said by Hildebrand in the 1967. Okay, and well, with this, I think this author tries to explain that the language finds itself in the situation of approaching us and making things that are not present understandable, and having even manifest images that cannot be even be represented, like the justice, a god, or the love. Okay, and explaining them and even making us think about them. So that's why the language and the perception is related, because thanks to the perception, we can express what our brain process about the elements that are around us. And now the Gestalt and learning. And this is a really interesting topic because we are learning we are studying a degree in which we have to focus a lot of in the learning process of our students. So let's get started with this topic. Well, according to Big M.P. Hunt in the 1917, the schools should try to teach students in such a way that they not only accumulate important knowledge applicable to life situations, but also develop a technique for independently acquiring new concepts and perspectives. And that's why the felt in Gestalt and the psychologists consider that learning is a phenomenon closely related to perception. Okay, so therefore, they define it as reorganization of the student's perceptual and conceptual world. And this is why many teachers with an orientation in the Gestalt field are always concerned with the problem of personal interest. And that is with helping students to see the need to study. Okay, and that's why students and the personal goals of the students will always be important for the teachers. Okay, so on the other hand, Brown and Wynne in the 1968 say that education moved from a rigid subject-based, training-based system of teaching, and efforts were made to make teaching student-centered. And the purpose of education was to develop understanding and apprehension of things as interrelated wholes. For this reason, the education tried to develop liberal programs and methods aimed to promoting integrated experiences. And how did these schools achieve it? And this is a question that I wonder. And my short answer that I can say is with teachers from the field of Gestalt who cares not only about the learning. I mean that, of course, the learning is something really important for the students, but also through the orientation of teachers towards the students. And with this, I have just mentioned, it is very, very related with the next slide. That according to Cross-Gordon in the 1984, said that it is necessary to organize the material to be taught in recognizable patterns and to make use of past experiences and constantly show how parts fit into the pattern from a whole. And this is how teachers approach working with the students and how Gestalt psychology and how the Gestalt school achieve this liberal environment with the students. And according to Vargas in 2008, given that perception in its rules would be fundamental as a productive condition, and in this case of learning, the role of the teacher is to identify the perspective field in which it is played. In general terms, to organize the resources, material, and effective to facilitate achievement goals that the learning subject will draw within that field. So, therefore, the students' perceptions about their learning would be integrated based on the goals that the students seek to achieve. So that's why the teacher have to focus a lot of in the goals that the students want to achieve during their learning process. Okay. And finally, we have Marquez in the 2003. And she says the meaning assigned to orientation from the beginning was to advise individuals so that they could properly choose an occupation and fulfill their goals and objectives. And well, that's why the teacher has a great role in the learning and goals of the students. And therefore, support from the teacher will often help them to rethink their goals and discard those that are trivial and capricious. And therefore, it is about preparing students in such a way that they adopt totally new goals. So, in general, I think this is a really interesting topic because we are learning that through the Gestalt psychology is not only refers to the perception and how the elements that are around us works to give us an idea. Really, we could see that the psychology theory focus a lot of in the learning process and how the goals of the students are important for the teachers and how the teachers have to focus a lot of in these goals and how the teachers have to use the perception to try the students make conscious of his and her goals. So here are my conclusions of this topic. And well, learning is a mental process of transforming, storing, retrieving, and using information. And finally, Gestalt approach takes into account that the learning process must be developed in different affective and emotional capacity by the teacher. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation, and I just want to say thank you for those people who watched my video, and I just want to say thank you for your attention. So thank you so much, and see you next time.